This is a true story from Washington State. It didn't begin with an argument or raised voices. It began with a text message. The microwave clock read 10:58 p.m. when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists late at night when everyone else is asleep, and the day finally lets go. I had just finished packing the last small pouch and labeling it in black marker. Evan sunscreen, Chloe motion bands, Noah seashell bag, one for each grandchild. My reading glasses slid down my nose as I wiped my hands on a dish towel and picked up the phone. It was from my son, Michael. The message read, "Mom, you won't be coming on the trip. Laura prefers to keep this vacation just for her side of the family. You've already helped by paying, so please understand." I read it again. Then another message appeared. "It's not personal. It's just easier this way. No call, no conversation, no thank you, just removal." I placed the phone face down on the counter and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the neat rows of travel-size bottles and carefully wrapped souvenirs. Tiny keychains lay beside them, each one engraved with the word adventure. I had planned to hand them out on the plane. Instead, I sat alone. The refrigerator hummed softly. The wall clock ticked. The same clock my late husband had insisted we keep even after it started running 5 minutes fast. I wasn't angry yet. I felt embarrassed, the quiet kind of embarrassment that makes you question your own kindness. That makes you wonder when love became something you had to earn with money. I had sensed the shift for a while. It was in the way Laura corrected me in front of the kids, the way she smiled while doing it, the way holidays slowly stopped being hosted at my house without anyone saying why. But I never believed my son would allow this. Michael used to bring me tulips every spring. He once told his teacher I was his best friend. I still kept the picture he drew in 2nd grade, me wearing a cape, labeled, "My Mom Saves the Day." Apparently, I no longer did. Near the door sat my small carry-on bag. Inside were 2 sundresses I hadn't worn in years, neatly folded. A framed photo of my husband, Thomas, wrapped carefully in a scarf, and a lavender candle, his favorite scent. I had imagined lighting it on the beach. I pictured my grandson asking, "Did Grandpa like the ocean?" And me answering, "He loved it because he shared it with me." That moment would never happen because I wasn't invited. Yet I had paid for everything: the flights, the beachfront rental, the airport transfers, the activities, even the upgraded bedding for Laura's mother's bad knee. I wasn't family. I was funding. I picked up my phone again, thinking I might call Michael. My thumb hovered over his name. But what would I say? That hurt. He already knew. "Please let me come." No mother should have to ask for permission to belong. I set the phone down and walked into the den. My old laptop took a moment to wake, the screen glowing softly in the dark room. I opened the folder labeled family trip fund. The number stared back at me. $18,947.36, every dollar saved after retirement. Online tutoring, skipped meals, canceled plans, cold nights with the heat turned low. At the bottom of the screen was an option: pause linked transactions. I didn't click it. Not yet. Instead, I opened a blank document and started typing something else. A list, names of women I knew. Women who had given everything to families that no longer noticed them. Susan, Marjorie, Ellen. I saved the file and closed the laptop. For the first time in 3 years, I imagined a different kind of trip, one where I wasn't an obligation, one where I wasn't invisible. And sitting there in the quiet, I felt it. Not anger, clarity. I didn't always plan this trip. At first, it was just an idea. A quiet one, the kind you carry around without telling anyone, afraid that saying it out loud might break it. It began 3 years earlier, the winter after I retired. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding a bill in one hand and a flyer in the other. The flyer showed a stretch of coastline, wide sky, pale sand, water so blue it didn't look real. I stared at it longer than I meant to. That night, I pulled an old mason jar from the back of the cabinet and set it on the counter. I didn't tell anyone. Every time I skipped something small, I put the money in that jar. $5 here, 10 there. Loose bills folded and tucked away quietly. I stopped buying my favorite tea. I canceled cable. I wore the same shoes long after the soles thinned. When friends invited me out to lunch, I told them I was on a budget. They didn't know why. At night, after the house went quiet, I tutored students online. I sat at the desk with a heating pad on my lower back, my eyes burning from the screen, explaining grammar rules to people half my age. When my joints ached, I told myself it was temporary. It was for something important. This trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a promise. My husband, Thomas, and I had gone to the coast once when we were young. We were barely married, barely solvent, sharing one suitcase and splitting sandwiches to save money. He burned so badly the second day that he wore a sheet over his shoulders like a cape for the rest of the trip. We laughed the entire time. After he passed, I made myself a quiet vow. One day, I would take the family there. I would let the grandchildren see the place where their grandfather laughed the loudest. I thought maybe it would bring us closer, remind my son of who we used to be. So I planned. I researched rentals that could fit everyone. I called travel agents. I asked about soft beds for the kids and handrails for adults. I arranged airport pickups, activities, meals. I made spreadsheets and checklists and backup plans. I put every booking on one account. Mine, because I trusted them, because I believed trust was something a mother earned. By the time the trip was booked, the jar was empty. The savings account held everything I had built dollar by dollar, and I felt proud, not because of the money, but because I thought I was giving my family something meaningful. That illusion cracked slowly. Group photos started happening without me. Holiday plans changed without discussion. I was invited, but as an afterthought. Once at a birthday party, someone introduced me as Michael's mom. Not grandma, not family, just present. Still, I held on. This trip would fix it, I told myself. Under one roof, with nowhere to rush off to, maybe they'd remember me. Maybe gratitude would come naturally. Instead, I received a text telling me I had already done my part. That night, sitting in my den, I reopened the banking screen and stared at the numbers. Every sacrifice stared back at me. The skipped meals, the canceled plans, the long nights. I realized something then that hurt more than the exclusion. They hadn't forgotten me. They had planned without me. I closed the laptop and went to bed. But sleep didn't come easily. My mind replayed moments I had brushed aside for years. Comments, smiles that didn't reach the eyes, invitations that came late. By morning, the house felt different, quieter, like something had finally stopped asking to be included. I stood at the window with a cup of coffee, watching the sun rise, and asked myself a question I had avoided for a long time. When did I stop being a mother and start being a resource? The answer didn't come in words. It came in resolve. The first sign came 2 weeks before the trip. I called my son, Michael, to confirm flight times. It rang longer than usual. When he finally answered, his voice sounded distracted, like I'd interrupted something important. "Yeah, Mom," he said. I asked about arrival schedules, whether the kids preferred morning or evening flights. I mentioned the shuttle I'd arranged from the airport. There was a pause. Then he said, "Oh, about that." Those 3 words have a way of changing the air in a room. He cleared his throat. "We might not use the shuttle. Sarah thinks it'll be easier if we rent our own car." I gripped the phone tighter. "I already paid for it," I said. "It seats everyone." "Right," he replied quickly. "But we like having flexibility." Flexibility. I let it go. I always did. Over the next few days, similar things kept happening. The seafood restaurant I'd booked was suddenly not great for kids. The family boat tour became too early in the morning. The boardwalk evening I planned was replaced with a private dinner reservation, not mine. The group chat buzzed constantly, plans, jokes, inside references. When I responded, the conversation moved on without acknowledgement. I told myself I was imagining it. Then came the call from my daughter-in-law, Sarah. She didn't bother with small talk. "So, Michael told me you booked the big beachfront house," she said. "We were thinking maybe it'd be better if you stayed somewhere nearby instead." Nearby. I stared at the wall, the phone pressed against my ear. "I booked that house so we could all be together," I said carefully. "Yes, But the kids need space, she replied. And honestly, we just don't want to feel crowded. Crowded like I was furniture. I can help with the kids, I offered. Give you breaks. There was a sigh on the other end. Not tired, irritated. We're really looking forward to having some family time, she said. I didn't ask who counted as family. When the call ended, I sat at the dining table for a long time. The same table where I'd hosted birthdays, graduations, and holiday dinners. Where I'd cut cakes and wrapped gifts and pretended not to notice when plates came back untouched. I opened my notebook, the one filled with plans for the trip. I crossed out my name from the main bedroom. Then I crossed it out from the guest list on the boat tour. One by one, I erased myself. That night, I packed early, slowly, carefully. I folded my clothes as if they might break. I placed my old sun hat at the top of the suitcase, the one Thomas used to tease me about. You look like a movie star from the wrong decade, he'd say. I smiled at the memory, then felt my chest tighten. The next morning, I checked my email. There it was, a confirmation message showing a separate booking, a smaller rental, a few blocks away. Booked using my account, charged to my card. No discussion, no apology, just a decision made for me. I forwarded the email to Michael with a simple question. Did you mean to send this? His reply came hours later. Oh yeah, Sarah handled that. We figured it'd be easier this way. Easier. I closed my eyes and let the words sit there. For the first time, anger crept in quiet but firm. Not explosive, not loud. The kind that settles in your bones. I wasn't asking to be the center of attention. I just wanted to belong. As the departure date approached, I stopped offering suggestions, stopped adjusting plans, stopped explaining myself. Something inside me was stepping back, watching, taking notes. And for the first time, I wondered, not with fear, but with clarity, what would happen if I stopped making things easy for everyone else? The airport was louder than I remembered. Rolling suitcases clattered across the floor. Children cried. Voices echoed over the intercom, calling out gates and delays. I stood near the window, gripping my boarding pass, watching planes lift off like they had somewhere better to be. Michael and his family arrived together. I saw them before they saw me, Sarah walking ahead, phone in hand. The kids trailing behind with backpacks nearly as big as they were. I raised my hand. They waved back, distracted. No hugs. No, we're so glad you made it. Just motion. Mom, can you grab an Uber? Michael asked, already turning away. We're heading out with the rental. I hesitated. I booked a shuttle. It's waiting outside. Sarah glanced at Michael, then back at me. Oh, we already canceled that. Canceled. I paid for it, I said softly. Michael shrugged. They'll refund it, right? They didn't. I watched their car pull away while I stood on the curb with my suitcase. The wind off the ocean, already salty in the air. The Uber driver was kind. He asked if I was visiting family. I said yes, then looked out the window so he wouldn't see my face. My rental was smaller than the photos. Clean, quiet, and empty. No laughter. No footsteps overhead. Just the hum of the air conditioner and the sound of waves somewhere in the distance. I unpacked slowly. By the time I finished, my phone buzzed. A message in the group chat. "We're ordering lunch. Anyone want anything?" I typed. "I can walk over." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Lunch happened without me. Later that afternoon, I walked to the beachfront house. The kids were already in the water. Sarah sat under an umbrella, sunglasses on, drink in hand. "Hey," she said, not standing up. Michael gave me a quick hug, the kind that ends before it starts. I tried to join the conversation, but it moved around me, not with me. Plans were being made for dinner. Reservations confirmed. Someone said, "It's adults only tonight." No one looked at me. I nodded anyway. That evening, I ate alone at a small cafe near my rental. I watched families laugh over plates of food, sand still clinging to their ankles. I remembered when Michael used to smear ketchup across his face and laugh when I wiped it away. When I got back, there was a message waiting. "Can you watch the kids tomorrow morning? We want to sleep in." No greeting, no please, just a task. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about the months of saving, the careful planning, the hope I had carried all this way. And for the first time, I didn't respond right away. Instead, I walked out onto the balcony and listened to the ocean. It didn't ask anything from me. It just existed. And standing there, I felt something shift, not sadness, not anger, but a quiet understanding. I had been invited on this trip, but I was not included in it. I woke up before the alarm. The room was still dim, light slipping in through the thin curtains. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Then the quiet came back to me. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just empty. My phone was on the nightstand. The message was still there. "Can you watch the kids tomorrow morning?" No follow-up. No explanation. Just an assumption. I made coffee and sat at the small table by the window. The mug warmed my hands, but not much else. I thought about all the mornings I'd woken up early for them, school days, holidays, emergencies. How often I had rearranged my life without being asked. I opened the group chat, typed, deleted, typed again. Finally, I wrote, "I won't be able to watch the kids this morning." That was it. No excuses. No apologies. No explanations. I set the phone face down and waited. 10 minutes passed. Then the buzzing started. Michael called first. "Mom, what do you mean you can't?" he asked. His voice was already tense. "I mean exactly that," I said calmly. "I made plans for myself today." "What plans?" he asked. I looked out at the ocean, sunlight now fully spilling across the water. "My own," I replied. There was silence. Then Sarah's voice joined the call. This trip is supposed to be about family, she said. We're all here together. I took a slow breath. Being together doesn't mean being used, I said. Another pause. Longer this time. You didn't say anything before, Michael said, softer now. I've been saying it for years, I replied, just not out loud. When the call ended, my hands were shaking not from fear, but from the effort of staying steady. I changed clothes, put on my sun hat, and left the rental. I walked the boardwalk alone, bought myself breakfast, sat by the water and watched pelicans skim the surface like they knew exactly where they were going. For the first time on this trip, I wasn't waiting for a message. By noon, the group chat was quiet. No updates, no photos, no requests. That evening, Michael showed up at my door. He looked uncomfortable, older somehow. We didn't realize you felt this way, he said. I know, I replied. That's the problem. He nodded slowly. We just assumed you'd help. You always do. I held his gaze. I still can, when I'm asked, when I'm included, not when I'm assigned. He didn't argue. Instead, he said something I hadn't heard in a long time. I'm sorry. Not perfect. Not everything, but it was something. After he left, I sat on the balcony again. The ocean was darker now, the sky streaked with orange and purple. I realized I hadn't lost my family. I had lost the version of myself that believed love meant self-erasure. And I wasn't going back to her. The next day felt different. Not lighter, not warmer, just honest. No one came by in the morning. No messages asking for help. No last-minute changes sent my way. I spent the early hours walking along the shoreline, shoes in my hand, the cold water brushing my ankles. I realized something surprising. I didn't miss them. I missed who I thought we were supposed to be. Later that afternoon, I received a text from Michael. We're going to the aquarium with the kids. You're welcome to come if you want. If you want. Not because they needed me, not because it was convenient, because the choice was mine. I met them there. The kids ran ahead, pressing their faces to the glass tanks. Sarah stood beside me, arms folded, watching. After a moment, she spoke. I didn't realize how much you'd done for this trip, she said quietly. I looked at her, surprised. You weren't supposed to, I replied. That's what made it hurt. She nodded once. No excuses, no defense. Progress doesn't always arrive as an apology. Sometimes it shows up as awareness. That evening, dinner plans were discussed, this time with me in the circle. Someone asked what I wanted to eat. The question caught me off guard. Anything simple, I said. And for once, that answer was accepted. Still, not everything shifted. There were moments I noticed the old habits trying to creep back in. A lingering pause before including me, a glance exchanged before decisions were made. Patterns don't disappear overnight, but something important had changed. They were careful now, not out of fear, out of recognition. One afternoon, I overheard Michael telling his son, "Go ask Grandma first. Not tell. Ask." The word landed softly in my chest. On the second to last night, we sat around a small fire pit on the beach. The kids roasted marshmallows. Laughter drifted into the dark like sparks. Michael sat beside me. "I didn't see it," he said. "But I see it now." I nodded. That's all I needed. Later, back at my rental, I unpacked my suitcase slowly, folded clothes I hadn't worn, items I'd brought just in case. I realized something else then. I hadn't come here to fix my family. I'd come here to stop breaking myself for them, and whether they changed or not, truly changed, was no longer something I was willing to sacrifice my peace over. Because love doesn't demand silence, and family shouldn't feel like a debt you're forever paying. The night before the trip ended, I couldn't sleep. The sound of the ocean drifted in through the open window, steady and unbothered. I lay there thinking about all the things I had swallowed over the years, the small dismissals, the quiet assumptions, the way my presence had slowly become optional. By morning, I knew something had to be said. Not angrily, not dramatically, but honestly. I invited Michael and Sarah to meet me for coffee. Just the three of us. No kids, no distractions. They arrived together. Michael looked cautious. Sarah looked tired. I didn't waste time. "I need to say something," I began. Not to blame anyone, but because if I don't say it now, I never will. They listened. "I've spent years believing that being a good mother meant making myself smaller," I said. "Quieter, easier. I thought love meant never being inconvenient." Michael's eyes dropped to the table. "I helped because I wanted to," I continued. But somewhere along the way, helping turned into expectation, and expectation turned into invisibility. Sarah inhaled slowly. "We didn't mean to make you feel invisible." "I know," I replied, "but intent doesn't erase impact." There was silence, the kind that isn't awkward, just heavy. "I don't need constant gratitude," I said. "I just need to be seen, asked, considered." Michael rubbed his hands together. "I think we leaned on you because it was easy, because you never said no." "I know," I said gently. "That part is on me." Sarah spoke next. "I grew up watching my mother burn herself out for everyone else," she admitted. "I guess I thought that was normal." I met her gaze. "It shouldn't be." No one argued. Instead, something softened. Michael reached across the table, not to interrupt, just to acknowledge. "I don't want my kids thinking this is what love looks like," he said. Neither did I. When we stood to leave, Sarah said something unexpected. "I'm glad you said this now," she said. Not after resentment had nowhere to go. So was I, because this conversation wasn't about fixing the past. It was about protecting the future. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold, I walked the beach one last time. I realized I wasn't sad the trip was ending. I was relieved that I was leaving lighter than I arrived. relieved that my truth no longer lived only inside me. The morning I left, the house was quiet again, but this time it didn't feel empty. Michael drove me to the airport. The kids hugged me longer than they had all week. One of them whispered, "Don't wait so long to come back, Grandma." I smiled. "I won't." And I meant it. At the gate, Michael stood with his hands in his pockets, shifting his weight the way he used to when he was nervous as a boy. "I'm glad you came," he said, "even if it wasn't perfect." "It didn't need to be," I replied. "It needed to be honest." He nodded. Then he said something that stayed with me long after I boarded the plane. "I want my kids to know you as more than someone who helps. I want them to know you as you." As the plane lifted into the sky, I watched the coastline fade into the distance. I thought about the mason jar, the sacrifices, the version of myself who believed love had to be earned through exhaustion. I didn't regret the money. I didn't regret the effort. What I regretted was how long it took me to understand this. Love that costs you your voice is too expensive. When I got home, I unpacked slowly. I placed the sun hat back on its hook. I rinsed the coffee mug and set it in the cupboard. Life returned to its usual rhythm, but I didn't. I answer calls now, but not every call. I help, but not at the cost of my peace. I show up, but as myself, not as a role. And something surprising happened. The more I respected my boundaries, the more others did too. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself in the quiet giving, in the silent hoping, hear this. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to be loved without being useful. Family should feel like belonging, not obligation. And sometimes, the bravest trip you'll ever take isn't across the country. It's the one back to yourself.